we have not finalized all committee assignments yet. I still have a couple of people uh, on the new board members to speak to. But since I've been the chair of this committee, I wanted to appoint someone right away to get started, and I've asked Emily to chair FFT going forward. I know she's going to do a terrific job and lead this committee with great skill. And I just wanted to say that I've had the honor of chairing this committee the last few years and to work with my fellow board members here, the chancellor, the vice chancellors, the presidents, and all of you in your various roles at our universities. And I just wanted to thank you all for making my role on this committee such a pleasure. With a special shout out to Vice Chancellor Lowe, with whom I have shared a wonderful collaborative relationship the last several years, particularly given the skill and enthusiasm he brings to his job every day. So the committee's in great hands. Emily, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Roger. To kick it off, Beth, I'm going to ask you to take the roll for the meeting.
Yes, good morning. Trustee Kane,
Hey, I'm here.
Trustee Cates,
Yes.
Trustee Flood,
Here.
Trustee Mishu,
Here.
Trustee McMahon,
Here.
Trustee Alexander,
Good morning.
Trustee Riley,
Here.
Trustee Johnson.
Here.
And I know that Trustee Gordon is on as a non-voting trustee.
Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to our newest trustee. Roger, thank you for that introduction. I am happy to be and honored to be the new chair of the Finance, Facilities, and Technology Committee. For today, I inherited this whole agenda in a nice, neat package with a bow on it, which is great. But after today, Ryan and I are going to connect about the committee work plan in the coming year and likely do some surveying of this committee once its new membership starts. And we're very glad that Clyde is with us today. Clyde Mitchell, our incredible, very always shows up as faculty rep, but we're going to be doing likely a surveying of the committee and potentially the board around education topics for the next year as we head into a new budget cycle, just to bring everybody up to speed. But we'll wait until new committee assignments are out for that as we take a look at the work plan. Just to give you a sense of today, we're going to go through the Gordian analysis, which is something we do annually and is, for Chris's edification, the riveting part of the meeting. You'll wait till you see the report. I don't want to make it, it's real sexy and fun. And when we have several items for voting before the committee, none of which are necessarily new. And I appreciate so many of the presidents and campus leadership being here. We will go into executive session at the end of the meeting, but I do expect this meeting will run on time and should end by noon. As a friendly reminder, please leave yourself on mute if you are not speaking. And while we do have a big full house today, if you have a question, use the raise hand function. It will make it easier for me to see you, especially if we have slides. So if you can do that, if not, just unmute yourself and make a noise and we'll find you. But thank you very much. Are there any questions before we start and before I turn it over to Gretchen? Excellent. Gretchen, the floor is yours.
Well, first of all, congratulations, Trustee Kane. So excited to have you here and in this role. And what a great way to kick off your tenure, but with a Gordian presentation. So today I am—
That's what I was thinking too. It's just so poetic. It's lovely.
Perfect timing. So today I'm joined by Victoria Vasile and Emma Biles from Gordian, who will present the FY25 Facilities Benchmarking and Analysis for the University of Maine system. This annual review provides an important system-wide baseline for understanding the condition, use, and investment needs of our facilities. The analysis focuses on several key measures, including density, facility age, net asset value, and operational effectiveness. These metrics are intended to inform decision-making and support responsible stewardship of our facilities. While the full deck has been provided to trustees, Victoria and Emma will focus today on selected slides that highlight the major trends and strategic considerations. In particular, the presentation will address how changes in teaching modality, enrollment, capital investment, aging infrastructure, and staffing pressures are affecting our facility portfolio. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Victoria and Emma to take it from here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, I will share my screen. Please, somebody let me know when you can see that presentation.
We can see it.
Yeah, we can see it.
All right, perfect start. Let me just set up my Zoom. All right, perfect. Well, thank you, campus leadership and trustees, for allowing us to share the highlights of the FY25 analysis. Again, my name is Victoria Vasile, and I am joined by Emma Viles. So every year, Gordian collects a tremendous amount of data and links it to one of the key areas listed on the screen. So this really allows us to understand the relationship between the facilities portfolio, capital investment, and operations at each of the individual campuses. We group our analysis into two different areas, the first being asset value change. That includes annual stewardship and asset reinvestment. That's on the left-hand side of the slide. So annual stewardship are the reoccurring dollars to keep up with the life cycles as they're coming due. So each of the buildings on each of the campuses are made up of building components. If we were to replace those assets as the life cycles come due, these would be the reoccurring dollars needed to keep up with that. Most of the institutions within the Gordian database don't have the dollars to keep up with the needs as they come due, which then defers to a backlog of need. This is referred to as asset reinvestment, which is the accumulation of need as well as additional modernization needs on campus. The one-time dollars then draw down against that need. The other area of our analysis is operation success. That's broken down into operational effectiveness and service, located on the right-hand side of that slide. So your operational effectiveness in the light blue looks at facilities operating expenditures and resources that we have on a day-to-day basis to really maintain facilities, this being your daily service, your preventive maintenance, utility costs, while also looking at staffing and supervision ratios. And then finally, service in the green is an area of our analysis that takes a deeper dive into the capabilities of the work order system, as well as the software available for each of the campuses. Moving to look at core observations this year. So we will continue to notice and talk about a shift to online teaching, which will be affecting the building usage. Continued record level of capital investments impact the campus age profiles, as well as the net asset values, that percent good. Our focus should really remain on divesting high need, low use buildings. And we need to continue to prioritize future investments into high impact functional portfolios, such as building envelope and building systems. I do want to also note here that throughout the presentation, you'll see the main system compared to the Gordian Public Higher Ed database average. This does include institutions such as the University of Massachusetts, University of New Hampshire, and many more. So without further ado, kicking off the analysis by looking at the student population. So here we're looking at enrollment headcount and in-person student FTEs. Both of these are going to be indexed to fiscal year 18. So for some context, fiscal year 18 was chosen as the baseline year here due to this being the first year of data that we could collect where online students were excluded and we were able to capture solely the in-person student FTEs. This allows for an apples to apples comparison with our present day numbers. So enrollment headcount in the blue, this includes both the in-person as well as the online students. This has seen a decrease since fiscal year 22 and a rebound in FY25, resulting in an overall 7% decrease since fiscal year 18. When we switch gears to look at solely the in-person FTEs, we can see a drop of 37% since FY18 and a plateauing / slight increase over the last 3 years. With that being said, we know that there are conversations around switching building uses as there has been a shift in the in-person versus the remote learning, and the topic of offloading space has become prevalent as spaces have been sold and leased to other entities. I'll pause. I see that we do have a question.
Thank you. Trustee Alexander, go ahead.
Just a quick question. how do you define the remote enrollment in terms of credit hours or, in other words, some students are on campus and take some in person and some online. How was that factored in? Thank you.
Yeah, so we've had lengthy conversations with both Gretchen and Nate, and so we do those solely online students, so not stepping foot on campus whatsoever. The ones that are partially on campus, we do want to consider those as, affecting the wear and tear of the facilities. So that online is solely online, never stepping foot on campus. So when we combine enrollment, Emily, did you want to?
No, I'm good.
All right. So when we combine the enrollment and the gross square foot, we are including across the system. So here we are indexing the density, gross square foot, and enrollment data to FY18. So overall, we've seen relatively consistent trending with the gross square foot in the red line with the diamonds when indexed to FY18 through FY23. Then in 24 and 25, we do see an increase. This is going to be due to Portland Commons and McGoldrick coming online. When we look at the change in the in-person student FTEs in that red line with the triangles, again, we see that 37% decrease, just as we saw on the last slide. And then finally, looking at the total enrollment that we saw on the last slide, this again is looking at or including both the online students as well as the in-person student FTEs, and is showing that 7% decrease overall. But rebounding from the decrease, we could see from 23 to 24, that drop, we could see that slight increase again. So overall, combining all of these elements together shows the relative steady gross square foot trending due to UMaine's No Net New Space initiative. While in-person student FTEs have seen a larger drop, the total enrollment has seen a less drastic decrease. This again opens the door for conversations to be had around converting current spaces to better support the online learning. When I move to the space profile of the system, so I do know there is a lot on the screen, so I want to point out two key areas before we start to dive into those details. So the gray mountain range in the back of the slide is the average time of construction for Gordian's entire database, whereas the green line is going to be the time of construction for the buildings at the UMaine system. So Gordian breaks out the construction vintage by pre-war on the left, post-war and modern in the middle, and then complex on the right-hand side. So now diving into each of those eras. So pre-war are buildings built prior to 1951. The UMaine system has 21% of space constructed during this era. These buildings are typically noted by durable construction and have longer lasting reputations. Whereas in that middle category, that post-war and modern, these are buildings built from 1951 to 1990. Really here we see the increasing demand for higher education during this time resulted in quick flash construction of lower quality buildings. The focus here was on creating more space, not necessarily on building those spaces to last. And as such, this era does tend to include some of the largest resource drains on campuses today. And you'll see that a great percent of Gordian's national database, as well as 51% of the space at the UMaine system, was constructed during this era. And then finally, all the way to the right-hand side is that complex era. These are buildings built from 1990 to present day. Even though there has been a return to more durable construction quality, the systems and technology within these spaces does tend to cycle more quickly, and therefore there is investment still required, even though they are more durable than that post-war and modern construction. The UMaine system currently has 28% of buildings constructed during this complex era. Now, I will note that since 51% of the system's gross square foot was built during this post-war and modern era, this does tend to create a lot of facilities needs due to the lower quality construction. While at the same time, the buildings within that complex era are starting to see their first wave of life cycles coming due. So here it is important to note that strategic renovations will be essential to combat these competing needs as the buildings age and we move forward. So looking at a comparison of construction versus renovation age. So construction age is not the only way to measure the age of space. Renovation age is really the effective age after you've renewed the building. So Gordian classifies a renovation when an institution invests 50% of the building's replacement value into not only the interiors, but also the exteriors and the building systems. Most importantly here, the building age is reset when the building is functioning like a newly constructed space. In order to address some of the risk we just talked about, the main system has completed some renovations. So bringing in that weighted construction age and weighted renovation age across the main system, we see that overall, all the way over to the left-hand side, that's that UMaine system, those two bars, we can see that overall the construction age is around 56 years old, while through renovations, the system has been able to lower the weighted age to 49 years old. Across the system, some institutions have been able to offset greater years than others, such as UMaine Augusta with their recent renovations of Acadia Hall and the Randall Student Center, UMF with renovations of Mallet and Purington Hall, and UMPI with Woodine and Pullen Hall. So overall, the system has offset just over 7 years through renovations, while the public higher ed average has offset just over 11 years. This slide illustrates the need for capital infusions into some of those older spaces to effectively reset the life of the buildings within the system. When we dive into that age profile a bit more, so here we're looking at the renovation age as a percent of gross square foot. This is broken down between the 4 age categories listed on the right-hand side. So really, as you move up the age profiles, there are increased operational and capital risks. So younger spaces tend to require less capital investment as well as daily service. Here, the focus is more so on preventive maintenance and keeping those systems running well. Meanwhile, as buildings age over the age of 25 years old, their assets start to reach the end of their useful life cycle that will require replacement driving capital needs. So as a whole, the UMaine system has 71% of space over the age of 25 years old, despite the renovations that have taken place across the campuses. So as buildings age over the age of 25 years old, they have a higher risk of failure if those replacements aren't being addressed in a timely manner. These are typically the buildings where the campuses are feeling high financial pressure to complete renovations as these systems are past due, thus leading to increased capital and operational risks. When we break out the campuses on that right-hand side of that chart, we can see that UMaine Machias and UMaine contain the greatest amount of space over the age of 25 years old, with UMaine responsible for nearly 50% of the overall gross square footage of the main system. While UMA has the greatest amount of space under the age of 10 years old, UMF, UMFK, UMPI, and USM fall in the middle with 60 to 67% of gross square foot considered to be high risk. I do also want to note here that all the way over to the right-hand side, we still see the improved age profile for Southern Maine. This is due to the 260,000 gross square feet that came online in 24 with McGoldrick Center and the Portland Commons. When we break out the system age profile and compare that to peers, so despite the work and renovations across the main system, peers have been able to achieve a younger age profile. So again, it's important to point out that 56% of our spaces are over the age of 50 years old, meaning that just over half of the spaces across the main system have systems that are past their useful life.
Victoria, for this session, can you just remind us and put in context the word peers?
Yep. So that's going to be that public higher ed database average. So that's going to be
It's
the peers.
all of it, though. It's not like equivalent necessarily age campuses or types of schools, land grants, public, etc. It's
Yep,
all.
exactly. But we do normalize them, especially for later on metrics. So we normalize on dollar per gross square foot and also the cost of living.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. So when we break out the blue bars to show the residence halls, we can see that almost 20% of the over 50 spaces are made up of residence halls. So with almost 70% of those res halls across the system falling into the highest risk age category, again, meaning that a majority of their systems are past due, which leads to difficulties maintaining the buildings, trying to strategically choose projects, as well as attract students. And then we do see a small fraction falling under that 10-year-old age category. This is going to, again, be the addition of Portland Commons and Southern Maine accounting for a portion of that space. So when we project out the system age profile, so as we reviewed in 25, the UMaine system has 71% of gross square foot falling into the high risk age categories. This 10-year projection slide assumes no changes will be made to the current campus profile. We do know this is highly unlikely, but this does allow for context to the age profile of the system. So without any renovations over the next 10 years, by 2035, we are looking at 87% of our existing footprint will be considered higher and highest risk and have major assets at or past their useful life cycles. Outlined on the right-hand side are some of those buildings who will have shifted to the next age bucket over the next 10 years. This slide is really mainly to be helpful to continue the conversation around strategic renovations in order to combat the aging buildings across the system and pinpointing the spaces that are key to not only the system, but also the individual campus missions. So now that we've reviewed the space profile, we can look and see how we've been investing into our spaces. So looking at total millions of dollars invested across the UMaine system, this is going to be broken out by existing space in the gray, that is spending into buildings that are already existing on the campuses. New space in the blue, this entails spending on projects that add buildings to campus. This does include acquisitions. Infrastructure in that light gray color, which is going to be investment into the utility distribution or grounds work. And then non-facilities in the purple are projects that go towards non-asset enhancing work. This is going to be such as studies or design fees. While we know that they're important, they're not enhancing the assets themselves. The spending is then broken out by expenditures by fiscal year from FY07 through FY25 with an average investment of $60.6 million. This is going to be primarily driven up by the trending of available dollars from FY22 through FY25, which are really going to be focused on those new space investments, with some of the largest spending in 22 and 23 coming from UMaine for the engineering building. 24, we see a spike at Southern Maine for Center for the Arts, Portland Res, and the McGoldrick Center. And then finally for 25, we see the GEM addition at UMaine and the continuation of spending for the Center of the Arts at Southern Maine. So here we do see a gradual increase of existing space spending over the last 3 years, which is definitely a trend that we would like to see continue in order to combat the aging facilities within the system profile. An example of this increased existing space spending this year would be that Sean Walsh renovation. And then looking on the right-hand side of this screen, the system's average investment from FY07 through 25, we see 40% of available dollars have gone towards existing spaces, with an almost even split towards new spaces, then followed by non-facilities at 12% and infrastructure at 7%. While new space is key to supporting programmatic changes, these new spaces can be more difficult to maintain from a facilities perspective and require more resources on a daily basis to operate those facilities. This does call for a balance of all types of investment. We know that new space is important to grow each of the institutions, but it is the investment into existing spaces that helps to alleviate the need in existing buildings across the system. When we dive into the existing space spending compared to the higher ed public average. So looking at existing space investment on a dollar, do we have a question?
Yeah, I did. I'm
Sure
sorry. Could
do.
you just go back? Could you just go back to that one? Thank you.
Mhm.
Not for this morning, but that 41% of essentially new construction for that period of time. I wonder if somebody could pull out the Alfond investments from that number so we could see what it looks like in terms of construction funded by non-Alfond sources, since those projects are nearing completion.
Yeah, definitely. We'll note that and we can pull that.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so diving into those existing space investment on a dollar per gross square foot level across the main system and public higher ed peers, we can see an average of $2.77 per gross square foot being invested into these systems' existing spaces, which again is going to be driven up by the increased investment in the recent years. Compared to public peer average of $3.88 per gross square foot, we have around $1.11 per gross square foot less on an annual basis than peers, meaning that peers have additional funds to steward their existing footprint that the system does not currently have access to, which again is going to be a relation to how peers have been able to complete large-scale renovations and mitigate more of their high-risk spaces. When we focus solely on FY25, the main system has been able to invest just over $1.25, $1.26 more than per gross square foot more than those peer institutions. This is a trend that we definitely want to see and take a moment to celebrate and see continue moving forward in the future. Again, as we think back on that space profile, 71% of our spaces within the system are above the age of 25 years old and considered to be high risk. So if you want to continue these large-scale capital infusions into existing spaces in a strategic manner, this would ideally focus on those higher return on investment items, such as envelopes and building systems, which will then be able to lower the overall risk of the spaces within the system. When we view our existing space investment historically compared to the annual investment targets, so buildings and their components are predictable in nature, and based on this, we can map out what it takes to keep up with them as systems come due for replacement. Really, the purpose of the slide is to identify a target investment level for the main system based on the physical characteristics of all included buildings. So if an institution is able to invest at or above that annual investment target on average over time, then this is the level of investment that will allow the institution to keep up with the needs of its buildings and prevent the accumulation of deferred maintenance need. Well, if an institution is able to invest at or above that life cycle need, so that dotted purple line over time, then this would allow the institution to catch up with the needs and increase the overall percent good of the institution. So both the annual investment target and life cycle needs change over time. This is due to inflation, which we've seen over the last few years, as well as the addition or removal of any spaces. This is a budgeting model, so in some years, the actual needs coming due will be higher than the annual investment target, and in some years lower, but being able to invest at or above the level consistently over time is a strategic starting point for evaluating the needed funding. That being said, the annual investment target is the recommended target level to invest at annually in order to prevent deferral of need and growth of the backlog over time. So in FY25, the annual investment target totals $60.5 million for the main system. While we were not able to invest above that annual investment target in 25, it is great to point out that in 25, we were able to invest 90% to target, which is the closest that we have been to hitting that target since 2013. So definitely taking a moment to celebrate that investment. However, historically falling short to the annual investment target will result in increased growth in backlog and risk of campus. We have also been able to project out the UMaine system capital plan over the next 6 years and compare those to those two targets listed on this slide. So focusing on the capital projections for 26 through 31, we can see fluctuations in funding over the 6 projected years. However, we are falling short to both of those targets in all future years. As we know, these numbers are subject to change. While the projected spending for FY25 is a great example, the actual spend for 25 was less than that projected spend, and we could see that between the two colors of the bar for that year. As reviewed on the last slide, the targets should be used as a budgeting model. So your needs can be above or below the targets year over year, but as long as you're trying to invest to reach these targets, we would be maintaining a steady state across the system. When we switch to view the percent invested compared to peers, so looking at the percent of target funded, each institution that we work with, given their building attributes, has a set target. So this is looking at the percent of those peers' ability to fund to their individual targets. So the main system all the way on the left-hand side has funded around 56% since FY16, compared to the public higher ed database average, that's in the middle in that yellow color, of 68% to target. And then all the way to the right-hand side, we've included the Gordian higher ed database of 71%. So historically, we are funding the lowest amount compared to both of those groups. However, again, it's important to point out that in 23, we invested similarly to the database, while in 24 and 25, we've invested above both databases, again, which is fantastic to see.
Victoria, we have a question from Pat Flood.
Thank you. I was just wondering, do the peers that we get measured against, do they have as large a footprint as we have in terms of infrastructure? And I just wondered if that was the case. Are we small, or do we have a super huge footprint and it's more difficult for us to keep up? So that's my question. Thanks.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the public higher ed is going to be those public institutions, that middle bar or middle area of this chart. So this is going to be institutions of all sizes. Same with the Gordian higher ed database. We do have other institutions and even other systems that are comparable in size. Meanwhile, there will be ones that are a little bit smaller. However, again, we do normalize on a dollar per gross square foot basis to make that an apples to apples comparison. Roger?
go
Thank
ahead.
you. One other question, if I could. This particular chart wasn't clear to me. When you talk about investments on this chart, is that renovation investments, or does that also include new construction in these figures?
So this is only going to be your existing space spending. So no new construction. This is as investing into the buildings that were currently existing on the institution's footprints in across all these years.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. So really the takeaway of the slide is when we're not able to hit our targets, we are deferring need. So when we look at the target over time and the investment falling short, this then leads to backlog increasing. So this chart is looking at asset reinvestment need in total dollars. And then on the right-hand side, the dollar per gross square foot compared to peers. This is including need that is already past due as well as coming due over the next 10 years. Our reinvestment need has reached just shy of $1.9 billion. When normalized on a dollar per gross square foot basis, our need is around $209 per gross square foot, while the public higher ed totals $152 per gross square foot, and the Gordian database is at $145 per gross square foot. Given our historical gap to target, the main system does have a higher dollar per gross square foot of need than peer institutions. Really, the reinvestment need can be prioritized in different ways by functional portfolio or type of need to help create the biggest impact with the available investment moving forward. So utilizing this need to calculate the NAV across the system. As a quick reminder, the net asset value, or the NAV, looks at the percent good of space. So we do this by determining the ratio of identified need to the total replacement value of each institution. So the NAV is broken down into the 4 risk levels or stages listed on the right-hand side. As the backlog grows, the overall NAV or percent good will be decreasing. So we can see this as a system. We are located in the systemic renovation stage where projects are picking us and major capital infusions are necessary. Within the system institutions, we do want to point out that UMA has the highest NAV at 74% and UMPI with the second highest at 65%. Both have exceeded the historical UMaine system NAV goal of 63.5%. However, overall, again, a majority of the institutions are falling into that systemic renovation stage. When we look at the NAV for the system broken out by function, so here we're applying the NAV to each function across the system, along with the percent of gross square foot for that function in the gray bars. So overall, the science research spaces maintain the highest NAV at 72%. However, these only make up 4% of the system's gross square foot. While academic buildings and residence halls make up 67% of the system GSF, both are falling into the systemic and transitional stages where renovations and transitional conversations need to be happening. This will lead to important conversations around buildings key to the system and campus missions to identify which buildings should be renovated and which can be divested.
Victoria, do you have a slide like this by campus?
Yes, we do.
Is that in the bigger, I don't remember if that's in the bigger deck that we have.
That isn't in the bigger
Just don't
deck, but we can
remember.
get that over to Gretchen, and Gretchen.
That would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. So we can also provide that, and then we also look at the NAV into current need, and so we have another breakout similar to the last one, so we'll also send over those as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. So here we're looking solely at the current backlog NAV compared to the main system. The goal here is to identify the most pressing needs that are occurring on campuses and show the campuses as their buildings stand present day. So again, this is solely looking at that backlog of need compared to the building's replacement value. Here we see a majority of the campuses are falling into that capital upkeep and repair and maintain stages. When we dive into a function level breakout of current needs, so again, disclaimer that's important to note in terms of backlog only. So the NAVs are based off of those past due needs. We highlighting the academic buildings and residence halls that make up just under 70% of the system gross square foot. Both of those are falling into the repair and maintain stage where buildings are starting to show their age, again, in terms of that backlog need only. So looking at NAV in terms of current need does allow for us to look at where the building's needs lie today and start to plan strategic projects to address functions that are key to the system and campus mission moving forward. When we move into the operations profile, so the operations profile is connected to the capital section that we just went through. As the dollars that we have from a capital perspective to help maintain campus life cycles decrease, the operating dollars that we need for day-to-day work are expected to increase. So here we're looking at operating spending. This is broken out by daily service, so your people costs as well as your expenses, preventive maintenance, and then utilities. This is from FY16 through FY25, and this is going to be normalized on a dollar per gross per foot basis. So this has also been adjusted for inflation. We know this is a huge challenge for the main system as well as across the country. Inflation is decreasing the amount of resources we have to maintain and operate our buildings. So here we are adjusting historical dollars to what they would be in FY25, meaning that we're showing the FY20 or FY16 operating actuals in terms of if they were being spent in FY25. So we're able to see that the UMaine system has 11% less resources today to maintain the campuses than we did in FY16, and that equates to around a dollar per gross foot less than in FY16. We see this also at the higher ed public database average as well. When adjusted for inflation, peers are also spending less in today's dollars. Really, the takeaway here is that institutions have less buying power due to the level of inflation. This is creating challenges across the board for the facilities departments to maintain the existing buildings. I do know we just covered a lot of information over a short number of slides, so we can wrap this up into a few key points. So the UMaine system needs from $60 to $98 million annually to slow aging and address the deferred maintenance. It's important to invest strategically in facilities that are key to the institutional as well as the campus missions based on function and low net asset values. Significant renovations or space reductions are required to reverse aging and decrease the deferred maintenance, and reducing space will also improve building usage on each campus. Finally, the UMaine system is still experiencing staffing shortages and talent loss due to wage discrepancies that we first discussed last year. Again, we kept this in referencing Gordian's 2024 State of Facilities report. So across the nation, it's expected that 40% of the current facilities workers are projected to retire by 2030, while hiring efforts are hindered by local wage gaps. I do want to thank you all for your time, and I want to open up the floor for additional questions.
Thank you so much, Victoria. I really appreciate it. So comprehensive and, as promised, riveting to kick off our FFT meeting today. We do have some questions. I see Trish, go ahead.
Thank you. This is riveting. I think it is.
It is. I was not being facetious. I actually do find it enthralling. So.
We've been looking at this for a number of years, and it's, and I think the Chancellor's been a real leader in this arena. But in the past, we had a listing, a big, huge appendix of buildings by campus and NAV, because it strikes me that the second bullet of your concluding remarks about strategic investments is the key. We certainly can't meet the entire need, but should we invest more in residence halls at Farmington and less in UMaine because they need more labs? I mean, those kinds of questions I think should guide FFT in our reviews, and it might be helpful to have that list of buildings by campus.
Definitely. We have shared that list with Gretchen and Nate as well. So they have a comprehensive list of those NAVs as well as a comprehensive dive of the differences between the residence halls over the last few years.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Gretchen. We'll go to the Chancellor and then to Trustee Flood.
Actually, it's to the chair. You asked for an analysis with respect to the Alphon monies. I want to point out and understand whether you want us to include the additional dollars that we were responsible for raising as well. So is it just the Alphon checks, or is it the Alphon checks and the dollars that we also had we needed to raise, which I think is about $177 million at this point. So, but I don't have it in front of me, but I just want to know from the chair whether he wants a full evaluation or just the Alphon monies.
How about both, I guess? Just because
I would recommend both. So
yeah, I mean, those private dollars were raised.
They were required
entirely because of the Alphon match requirement. So that'd be great.
It gets us to $500 million.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Chancellor. Trustee Flood, and then we'll go to Professor Mitchell.
Oh, I just want to jump in. So we'll work with Gretchen. It looked like Gretchen, you were about to say something as well. So we'll work with Gretchen just to make sure we can provide those breakouts for you all.
Thank you. And I appreciate that point from the chancellor as well, because a lot of these projects, while they did involve Alphon dollars, they also involved other funding sources that the campuses were responsible for fundraising, et cetera. So we'll try to find a better way to share that story.
Thank you, Gretchen. Go ahead, Pat.
Thank you. Thank you, Victoria. The question I have is, maybe it's not an easy one to answer, and maybe you won't feel comfortable answering it, but when you normalize everything and you look at, some campuses that were being, I'm speaking of peers, some of the peers are bigger, they've got bigger money bags behind them or whatever, but is there anything that you can say about best practices that the folks who are maybe doing a somewhat better job than us and in these categories, is there any degree of best practices, best procedures, anything we can learn from others in this process?
Yeah, definitely. The institutions that I also work with, there's heavy investments into their existing spaces. Again, similar to what I said in the capital section, new space is important. It's important to, have new buildings to attract students. The main system does a really extraordinary job of the no net new space. I know that's been going on for the last 12 or 13 years. Actually, that's sometimes some of the recommendations I give to my other institutions that I work with. So definitely kudos to the main system for that. But also including, the divestment of some of those spaces that aren't necessarily important to the system or institutional missions, and that have those lower net asset values would be a really great step. I know at UMPI and I think UMA, there's already been the leasing off of spaces as well as the selling of spaces. So the continuation of that, but really investing into those higher return on investment systems, such as those building envelope and your building systems. They're not necessarily they're not the projects that, will attract students, but they are the projects that will keep those buildings open so you can attract students. That's definitely the biggest thing that a lot of our other institutions that we work with, we also preach to them. We want to make sure those buildings are running, and the roofs are staying in place, and the boilers are continuing to heat, especially up in Maine in the winter months. So it's a twofold. It's the divestment of spaces that aren't key to the mission, as well as redirecting some of those funds away from a little bit of the space renewal, so the interiors, and really investing into those higher return on investment systems.
You gave me a lot more than I thought you'd give me. Thank you very much.
And before I go to Clyde, I want to build on that question. Can you, if you have it, do you also have for those peer institutions funding source? Like, what is state funded, what is privately funded, what is bond funded, for example? That would be interesting to know as well as we're looking at peers. If you have
So
that.
we have something, it will be, we can add it in. It's going to be similar to the percent of fund or percent of target funded. So we have the asset reinvestment, so that one-time funding, which is going to be those gifts, bonds, or grants, and then their annual stewardship, their recurring sources. So we can add that slide into the appendix. So that's going to be another view of that percent to target.
That'd be great. Thank you. We'll go to Clyde and then Barbara.
Hi, Victoria. Actually, you kind of answered my question a little bit now, but about the sort of disinvestment of certain properties. In one of your earlier slides, you noted that full-time students have gone down 37%. And I know at our campus, I think our full-time students have gone down by more than 50%, certainly since I joined, probably 20 years ago. Do we have like target density ratios that could be guiding our decisions on how to kind of take properties offline? Because I tend to agree with you. If we need to spend money to reinvest, we should be maybe trying to do it strategically to avoid spending money on buildings that we might not need in 10 years' time.
Yeah, definitely. We do have the density factor. We did omit that this year, just because there's internal talks within Gordian. Some of the comparisons that we wanted to include, we wanted to make them accurate for present day. So we're still going through that on our end, but we can include a high level density factor in the appendix of the slides and send those back over to Gretchen. Because you are entirely right. If we have too much space per student, that's not going to be a great area to be in. Not only is it more costly to maintain, but you're still spending it's not going to be a great situation overall.
Thank you. Barbara, go ahead.
Thank you. The Gordian material is the raw data for sure. That is incredibly valuable. But in order to use that data, one presumes we need a system-wide plan that actually takes the data and makes recommendations for short-term and long-term funding given the data that this plan or this material has generated. Is such a document exist? I don't think I've ever seen one.
My knowledge, a document doesn't exist. I'll defer to Gretchen.
Thank you. So we do have system-wide goals that we established with Gordian that Victoria highlighted, but I do appreciate your point about a system-wide focus on what metrics should we be evaluating against. And I think this also ties in nicely to our master planning efforts that will give us a more comprehensive view of each campus, their facility conditions, their net asset values, and where we need to be strategically aligned for that. So I think your point is well founded, and I'm happy to take that back and see what we can come up with for a strategic plan related to that. Does that answer your question, Trustee Alexander?
Yes, I think what I heard is we don't have a plan, but we should. Thank you.
Thank you. Roger, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. This question's for Gretchen or Ryan. And if you can't answer it this morning, I'll understand. I understand we have an RFP that we just granted to some entity that is going to be doing some further assessment of our building system wide and maybe even looking at possibilities for reuse of excess buildings. Can you get us some information on that? If not this morning, just what the details of that are, because it relates certainly to what we're talking about here with Gordian.
Absolutely. I'm happy to gather that information and provide you with an update. We did make the award to Goody Clancy, and we're actively engaging with them to determine a plan for each campus when they will go live with their master planning efforts.
Great. So if you could give us a summary of that, that would be terrific.
Perfect.
Thank you.
We can put that on the list for a future meeting as well.
Could I also add on just to that
Yeah,
last part
go
of the
ahead.
conversation? I mean, and I think the former chair opened up by talking about this. We've been having these conversations with Gordian since the early 2000s. And so, I don't want to imply that this data just comes here and then there's no plan associated with it. It absolutely informs our 1-year capital plan. It informs our 5-year capital plan. It informs our budget planning. Several of the slides that you saw today as part of the Gordian presentation are actually slides that we duplicate in the budget presentation that each of the campuses need to present and show those targets. And so we absolutely have better things that we can be doing. We can use the data more, but I also don't want to leave the impression that it just hangs out there either.
Thank you, Ryan. Excellent point. And Nate Harris, who couldn't be here today because he is on vacation, does a lot of that work and coordination with each one of the universities to share with them their Gordian data, et cetera.
Thanks, Gretchen. Barbara, did you want to?
No, I appreciate when the budgets come forward, we're seeing the use of this data. I don't deny that at all. It's very, very helpful. And I know the system is trying very hard with the very limited dollars that we have to try to target expenditures for the biggest bang for the buck. So my comment was not intended to suggest we're completely afloat. But it would be nice to see in one document a system-wide set of where the system intends to allocate resources given various levels of funding and what our plan is to assure sufficient funding. That's my point. And I don't totally understand the good work going on to make use of very scarce dollars on an annual basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Pat, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm probably not the only one who noticed all the upticks in the graphs in the last 2 or 3 years for the performance of the organization for making improvement. So it's nice to see that, and I know it's not going to continue necessarily that way, but it's nice to point out the progress from time to time. Looks good.
Thank you. My takeaway is we need a bond. That's what I was thinking. When I read this, I'm trying to look at this report, I think, oh, just telling me we need a bond. So I'm going to say it here and begin to manifest it. That's what I'm doing. Other questions for Victoria from anyone
I just
here?
wanted
Go ahead.
Trustee
Yeah.
To circle back to Trustee Alexander's comment, I think it would be worth giving an overview of how the capital planning process works internally, because each institution has their own budget related to facilities and investment, et cetera. So the system can provide guidance, but it's up to each institution to operationalize that. So I think perhaps a better overview of how that process works could be helpful.
We can definitely put that on the plan for this committee. That's a good idea. Thank you. Other questions for Victoria? Victoria, do you have any other information for us today? Parting
Not
words of
information,
wisdom.
but I do want to give a very quick shout out to all of the institutions. We know that we ask them for tremendous amounts of data every single year, and they are always more than happy to provide it for us. We have multiple touch points with all of the institutions, and everyone is fantastic to work with. As always, they give us a lot of context so we can roll this up to the system level. So definitely a very large shout out to all the institutions, the contacts, and Gretchen and Nate. We meet with them monthly, if not more often. So definitely it's a joy always. So I'm happy that you all like to see the presentation, but we are always happy to jump on a call with everyone from the main system. So
We appreciate it, and we definitely look forward to the follow-up additional pieces of information as well. Thank you. With that, we'll close this portion of the agenda. I think we should maybe take a 3-minute break since we've been sitting for almost an hour, and then we'll come back and jump into the action items. Is there any objection? Take a 3-minute break. See you in 3 minutes. Thank you very much.
for your time.
If we could start to make our way back, we'll jump into our next items. Just give it another 30 seconds or so. A few more people to join us. Great. I think we can go ahead and get started. Our next item on the agenda today under tab 2 is UMaine Athletics is the Mahaney Clubhouse renovation. President Freeney Mundy cannot be with us today, but we do have Jenny is here, Jenny Boyden, and also Jude Killey, our athletic director, is here as well to answer any questions and do this. So Jenny and Jude, I'll turn this over to you.
Thank you, Trustee Kane. Good morning. We are requesting authorization to spend up to $750,000 for the renovation to the Mahaney Clubhouse. The clubhouse sustained significant damage earlier this year from a failed steam release valve. And in addition to the repairs, we're intending to enhance the building's envelope, HVAC system, electrical, and fire protection systems, as well as improve accessibility. This will improve the building's net asset value, but is not anticipated to increase square footage or net operating costs. This will be funded with Alfond grant dollars, as well as the matching funds that we are required to collect. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and Jude could certainly go into more specifics.
Thank you, Jenny. Jude, do you have anything you want to add before I open it up to questions?
Yes, please. And thank you for having us today, Chair Kane. Yeah, the only thing I would add just on Mahaney. So probably about a year to year and a half ago, we actually had a structural assessment done on the entire building, just to make sure that we were investing good money, not, good money after bad kind of thing. And what that found was that we actually had an issue with the vapor barrier, but the bones of the building were actually good. The roof, the studs, everything else was actually in really good shape. So we are doing that as well. So the point being is this is an investment in the longer term of this building. And some of it just makes sense to do all at the same time while we're replacing the HVAC and, the storm damage. Why wouldn't you put new carpet in a building that's been in existence for 30 years and new ceiling tiles as opposed to the same old thing? So it again makes sense to combine all the work and knowing that it's an investment in the future.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Jenny or Jude about the Mahaney Clubhouse renovation? Okay. Oh, yeah, there we go. Trustee McMahon, David.
Have we had this work quoted out, or is this just an internal estimate? Because, we're in somewhat inflationary times, and you just want to make sure that 750 is 750.
Yes, we are doing actually a lot of the work internally through our maintenance shops, and we do have current estimates to do this work.
So to answer your question, David.
Yes, it does. Thanks.
Amazing. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes. Trustee Gordon.
My first question. If it's
your first question. I love it. Welcome.
Jude, if it's a steam pipe break, was there any insurance money involved?
There is not.
None? How come?
None.
Just didn't qualify?
Jenny, I'm happy to answer that if you'd like.
I would love for you to do so.
Go ahead, Gretchen.
So our insurance has a higher retention limit for that particular building, and the loss did not hit that level.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Great question. Any other questions? Seeing none, I will read the text of the resolution that the Board of Trustees, acting through the Finance, Facilities, and Technology Committee, authorize the University of Maine system, acting through the University of Maine, UMaine, to expend up to $750,000 for renovations to the Mahaney Clubhouse. Any additional questions or discussion? Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second, and it's been moved and seconded. Beth, would you please take the roll?
Trustee Kane,
Yes.
trustee Cates,
Yes.
trustee Flood,
Yes.
trustee Michaud,
Yes.
trustee McMahon,
Yes.
trustee Alexander,
Yes.
trustee Riley,
Yes.
trustee Johnson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you so much, Beth, and thank you, Jenny, and thank you, Jude. Our next item under tab 3 is the Abramson HVAC replacement at the University of Southern Maine. I see President Edmondson is here. Shall I turn it to you first?
Yes, thank you so much. And Trustee Kane, thank you and congratulations on being chair of FFT. We're
Thank
really
you.
happy to have you serve in this role.
Thank you.
So the Abramson HVAC is in front of us today. We're requesting authorization to expend up to $3,500,000 for the construction and installation of the air source heat pumps, heat recovery chiller, and a supplemental boiler. And many of you are familiar with the Abramson Community Center. There are offices there in Hannaford Hall, and it's a high-use building on our campus. And so I'll turn it over to Justin Swift, our VP for Finance and Administration, for further detail for you. Thank you.
So, good morning, everyone. So as
Hey,
the
Justin.
president mentioned, the Abramson Community Education Center on our Portland campus houses our continuing education, Office of Admissions, conference services, and the 500-seat Hannaford Hall. This building was built using a ground source heat pump system in an open loop configuration. You might hear this as in the term geothermal. At the time, this was the common practice, the open loop heat system. However, in our situation, the water coming from the ground to provide the heating and cooling capabilities became contaminated with silt and heavy metals, which are corrosive to the mechanical systems. In the summer of 2024, USM discontinued the use of the open loop system because of insufficient groundwater and corrosion issues. And since then, we've been renting a boiler and chiller system while we explored options and funding for this project. This work is expected to allow the Abramson Community Education Center to maintain its LEED Gold certification. We are requesting authorization to expend up to $3.5 million for this project, with funding coming from our E&G budget identified in our capital plan. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, President Edmondson. Thank you, Justin. Are there any questions about this HVAC replacement? Excellent. If not, I will read the text of the resolution that the Finance, Facilities, and Technology Committee approve the following resolution to be forwarded to the Board of Trustees for approval at the July 13th, 2026 board meeting. That the Board of Trustees authorizes the University of Maine system acting through the University of Southern Maine, USM, to expend up to $3,500,000 for design, construction, and installation of a new HVAC system at Abramson Community Education Center on the Portland campus. Are there any questions or discussion? Can I have a motion
So moved.
and a second?
Second?
Thank you. Beth, would you please take the roll?
Trustee Kane,
Yes.
trustee Cates,
Yes.
trustee Flood,
Yes.
trustee Michaud,
Yes.
trustee McMahon,
Yes.
trustee Alexander,
Yes.
trustee Riley,
Yes.
trustee Johnson.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. We'll now move to tab 4, which is a request to establish Zillman Bequest as a quasi-endowment at the University of Maine at Presque Isle. I see President Ray Rice is here and Megan as well.
Good morning, Chair. Yes, I'll give a quick context to it, then turn it over to my Chief Business Officer to say a little bit more. But as you all may remember, the Zillmans bequested UMPI about $2.1 million and counting so far. Likewise to what the University of Maine was bequested. We are undertaking a large-scale comprehensive canvassing of the campus community for its usage. We plan on using it as part of a comprehensive capital campaign. But in the interim, it's been recommended that we put it into this quasi-endowment status, so it can be safeguarded until we can make appropriate final decisions about its usage on the campus. And I'll turn it over to Megan for other comments.
Good morning and thank you. We're here today to request an exception to the Board of Trustee Policy 706 concerning $2,160,000 bequest UMPI received in December of 2025 from the state of Linda Zillman. Under the will, the funds were given to UMPI for the general use of the university to advance its educational purposes with no restriction on their use. The donor expressed a hope that a portion of the gift support the Zillman family greenhouse, which is a wish rather than a binding condition. Policy 60706 provides that a bequest be either endowed or credited to a capital campaign unless the donor specifies otherwise. And because the will is silent on endowment, the default would require these funds to be held as a permanent endowment, preserving the principal in perpetuity and only the earnings available to spend. UMPI's intent is instead to apply the entire gift to a one-time capital project, which requires an exception that only the board can grant. General Counsel has advised accordingly, and System Finance has confirmed the structure we propose, a temporary quasi-endowment. Designated by management rather than the donor, held and invested intact with no income distributions, and liquidated once a project is identified, so the principal becomes available at that time. On campus, we have invited proposals consistent with the estate's purpose and formed a committee to narrow them with the goal of completing a project within 3 years. Today's action establishes only the fund structure, and any qualifying capital project would return to this committee and the board on its own merits. We respectfully request that the Finance, Facilities, and Technology Committee recommend this item to the board for approval at its July 13th meeting, and would be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you both. I have a question, which is, are you contemplating holding back some of it in endowment for maintenance and repair of projects that you may build with it? I've got Gordian on my brain about maintenance and the challenge of upkeep of projects. And I know that it's rare to have the opportunity to set aside funds for ongoing care of buildings. Is that part of your planning? And my second part of the question is, with the wish expressed related to the greenhouse, are you taking explicit action in the proposal portion related to that?
President Rice, would you mind if I answer?
Be my guest.
Okay.
I think he wants you to answer, actually.
In portion to the greenhouse is in a couple of the proposals being brought forward to the actual committee. The committee is reviewing multiple ideas. We've had amazing ideas come through from community and or employees, students, the entire UMPI community. And the majority of the requests are actually being brought into an existing space already, and essentially is going to be renovation to a building. Did
Great.
I answer the question?
I think so. Yeah. Yep. Thank you. That's right. Trustee Alexander.
Just looking at this from the perspective of what it is you need a waiver for, is this term quasi-endowment in the policy language? I'll confess I haven't looked at it, but what exactly is the waiver for? I didn't really understand that. Thank you.
Of course. So I believe, and I actually am looking at Vice Chancellor Lowe as well, if you wanted to also jump in, but the waiver is really for any endowment, any gift this large would actually be fully endowed, so the principal would be held and only would be able to use the gift portion of it, the earnings off of that endowment. The quasi-endowment is to truly be able to release the principal when we're actually able to come to the conclusion of a capital project.
Is the quasi-endowment phrase in the policy, or is that something we've created here for the purpose that you need?
I'll look at.
Ryan, do you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe Eamon wants to weigh in on that one. I wasn't involved in the discussions with the council. I mean, the 706 language you can see is in the attachment that talks about this piece. I don't know that it covers the quasi piece. I haven't looked through to that piece.
Eamon, do you want to weigh in?
Yeah, that is not to my knowledge in policy. I think, Megan, correct me if I'm wrong, that was sort of part of UMPI's proposal for what they want to do, and they're sort of self-styling it as a quasi-endowment, sort of, or short-term with long-term goal of liquidating, is what I heard.
Quasi endowment is actually a term in like it's a term
Correct.
that people use. But I didn't see it in the policy either.
But where the terms of the gift are to be used, for not for an endowment, but for usage on the campus. So we are essentially trapped by the language of the board policy unless we put it to use immediately in a capital project, which we don't want to rush into. So this allows us to make a deliberate decision.
Right. I have no problem with the waiver. I don't like creating a new word here that might have precedent for something else. Can't we just structure this resolution as a waiver to allow the campus to the creation of a program for the Zillman's bequest to be later liquidated and spent based on recommendations of the Zillman Committee? I just have a problem creating a word here that is not really.
I don't think we're actually.
You're not creating a word. I mean, quasi endowment is a term in the fundraising structure of in the business of fundraising. It is I mean, Ryan, go ahead if you want, but
I was just going to note that if you flip over to the second page of the materials, you can see also referred to as board designated funds. We're not making up terms, but I mean, you know what our intent is, and I think even Barbara's explanation is consistent with what our intent is.
Yeah,
right. I'm just asking for an amendment to the resolution to not use the word that is not in our policy. And if there's a word that can be referenced to clearly allow this waiver for a board designated or something like that, I'm fine with that. If you would consider that, I'd appreciate it, just for precedent setting purposes.
Madam Chair, we would be completely comfortable with board designated. We think they're interchangeable already, so no concerns about that.
Great. So we just need to make sure we write it up and put it in the chat so everyone can see it before we vote on it. So if someone could do that, we can pause on this one, move to the next one, and come back. If that's easier.
I'll do that right now.
I think Ryan's going to do it right now.
Okay, that's fine too.
Yep. So we'll pause on this one. Ray, if you don't mind, we'll move to the next one and circle back to you. That would be great.
If you circle back before the end of the meeting,
I will
circle. Am more than happy.
You will not be missed. I promise. We are going to just keep moving, and then we'll have all the chance to look at the new language in a public way. So we're going to move now to the University of Maine at Augusta with the Jewett Hall water damage repairs at UMA, and President Cushman is here. Hi, Jen.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Chair Kane and members of the committee. We are bringing first forward an urgent moisture mitigation and repair request for Jewett Hall on our Augusta campus. It's our primary academic home to our science labs, the Danforth Gallery, the auditorium, and core academic colleges. And for that reason, the long-term viability of this building is crucial to our educational mission. Corey Watson, our interim CBO, will explain why the scope of these necessary repairs had to be expanded and how we plan to execute the work. Corey?
Thank you, President Cushman, and good morning, everyone. We're requesting authorization to spend up to $750,000 for moisture mitigation, pipe insulation, and wall repairs in Jewett Hall. The building sustained significant water damage caused by uninsulated unit ventilator piping, failing condensate pipes, and cracked lines. We originally launched a smaller scope project back in October 2025 to tackle this systematically in phases as funding became available, but exploratory test openings in 12 of the units revealed moisture in every single wall assembly investigated, demonstrating that immediate comprehensive repairs required in their entirety rather than through a phased approach. So contractors are opening the wall assemblies adjacent to 62 first floor heating and cooling units and 12 on the second floor to update the condensate pumps and drain lines, replace rusted framing, insulate the piping, and then restore the drywall and plaster. We'll fund this project using E&G funded depreciation dollars, with $150,000 coming from our FY26 budget, $370,000 from our FY27 budget, and the remainder will come from our FY23 directed spending bond. The heaviest work will occur this summer while the building is basically vacant, and we're hoping to target the majority of the completion by the start of the fall 2026 semester, but the total project will be wrapped up by February of 2027. And so with that, we would request your approval of the resolution.
Thank you. I see a question from Trustee Michaud. Mike.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Yeah, my initial question is, I mean, that's a significant increase. Can you provide the detailed cost estimate supporting the increase from 150,000 to 750,000? And is there an engineering report that documents this finding? And but my last question is, how much of that increase is for remediation versus restoration?
Yeah, I can certainly answer some of that. First of all, the scope increase, again, this was something that we were hoping to do over several years. And so the 150,000 was really just going to be a 1-year allocation. But given the significant findings of the facilities team when they were in doing this work, we decided that we needed to escalate this to do the full remediation at once as one big project, as opposed to doing it over several years. I'm not sure, Gretchen, if you have more details on the engineering piece.
Yes, we did involve capital planning in this project. So they have been involved from the engineering piece, and we also engaged with an outside firm to help with the evaluation of the current condition of the facility as well. And I think this also speaks to the reason to do it, another factor to do it now versus over many years, is just the cost of inflation. So if we delay doing this in the future, it's going to cost even more for UMA to complete this work. Does that answer your question, Trustee Michaud?
So is the bulk of it for remediation, or is all of it for remediation?
The remediation includes the construction and repair. So in order to access the systems, we need to take down portions of the wall. So it's the majority is remediation. Corey, do you have any other? Did I miss
Yeah, so
anything?
I know on the first floor there's a significant repair that will need to be done to the drywall and plaster. On the second floor, those units feature masonry walls, so the drywall repairs aren't needed there, but the first floor has the majority of the units.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there other questions about the UMA project? This UMA project, because there's another one. Great. If not, I will read the resolution that the Board of Trustees, acting through the Finance, Facilities, and Technology Committee, authorizes the University of Maine system, acting through the University of Maine at Augusta, to spend up to $750,000 for necessary repairs of Jewett Hall. Are there any additional questions or discussion? Could I have a motion
So moved.
and a second?
Second.
Thank you. Beth, if you could please take the roll.
Trustee Kane,
Yes.
Trustee Cates,
Yes.
Trustee Flood,
Yes.
Trustee Michaud,
Yes.
Trustee McMahon,
Yes.
Trustee Alexander,
Yes.
Trustee Riley,
Yes.
Trustee Johnson.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Great. Let's circle back to the University of Maine and Presque Isle. Give UMA a break. We'll come back to you in a second, if you don't mind. We have new language in the chat, which I will just if give everybody a second to look at, I think everybody can see the chat. So I'm going to give you a second to read it, see if there's any questions about it or additional edits. Thank you for that quick turnaround, Brian.
I will just confirm, I think this language is much clearer. It's exactly what we should have done the first time. But I'll also note that quasi-endowment is all through our APLs.
Yeah. Great. Okay, with that, I will read the updated motion that the Board of Trustees accepts the recommendation of the Finance, Facilities, and Technology Committee and approves the creation of a board-designated endowment for the Zillman's bequest to be later liquidated and spent based on the recommendations of the Zillman Committee. Are there any additional questions or discussion? May I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Beth, could you please take the roll?
Trustee Kane,
Yes.
trustee Cates,
Yes.
trustee Flood,
Yes.
trustee Michaud,
Yes.
trustee McMahon,
Yes.
trustee Alexander,
Yes.
trustee Riley,
Yes.
trustee Johnson,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you very much, President Rice and Megan as well. Now let's go back to Augusta and the tab 6 under 125 Community Drive Centiro lease. President Cushman, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. Our next item focuses on our recently acquired property at 125 Community Drive. It demonstrates our commitment to creative multi-use functionality and responsible financial stewardship. Authorizing this lease agreement with Centiro, who's already a tenant, strengthens a valued community partnership while generating revenue to offset the facility's operating costs. I'm going to hand it back to Corey to present the terms of this potential 6-year agreement.
Thank you. We're requesting authorization to enter into a lease agreement with Centiro, which is a college readiness nonprofit organization that's already located within our property at 125 Community Drive, which UMA purchased in April of 2025. The agreement establishes an initial 1-year term beginning October 1st, 2026 and ending September 30th, 2027, along with 5 additional 1-year renewal options for a total potential duration of 6 years. Under this agreement, Centiro will pay UMA $30 per square foot in year 1, which will generate $33,540 in total annual revenue. The lease rate escalates by 3% each year thereafter, bringing the total potential contract value to $178,065 over the full lease term. The rental income Centiro provides directly helps cover the building's ongoing operating costs, which allows us to host vital front-facing student operations, including our counseling center, TRIO programs, and student athletics in a highly visible, modern, and welcoming location with ease of access. So we would request your approval for the proposed resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions about this one? Yes, Trustee Riley, Trish, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Kane. I'm just curious, I believe this is the building formerly known as Blueberry.
Yes.
And I know that the revenue stream is critically important from the leases to you, but I noticed it was a year-to-year lease. Is that what you wanted? Is that what they wanted? Does that put you at risk for losing this important revenue?
I mean, I've spoken with the tenants. I think this was a mutually agreed upon flexibility. However, they have no intention on leaving. They seem very pleased with the partnership with UMA and want to continue. But this was just allowing both UMA and Centiro some flexibility for future changes in the square footage or usage of certain parts of the building.
Trish, does that answer your question? Yeah, you're good. Okay, great. I got Trustee Alexander and then Trustee Michaud.
You say that the key financial advantage for UMA here is that the lease agreement will pay for the maintenance. Is that for the entire building or just the portion of it that we are using?
We have two tenants currently in the building, and the annual rent that we collect from them will offset the operating costs of the entire building, which will allow us to essentially utilize the remainder of the building for counseling, trio, and student athletics without taking on additional operating and maintenance costs. So it's essentially an offset.
So just one follow-up. So is that built in, is there inflationary costs to maintain the building built into the calculation of the year-to-year or lengthier lease potential?
Yeah, so we have right now with this agreement built in a 3% annual increase in the lease, and that is equivalent to what we presume would be our increased cost due to inflationary increases in operations and maintenance, which could change, but we're hopeful that estimate remains solid.
Thank you. We have Trustee Michaud, then McMahon, and then Gordon.
Yep. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, just to be clear, that's actually Trustee Alexander had some of my questions. So all the utilities, maintenance, janitorial, and property management costs will be covered under this lease agreement. Is that correct?
Yes, we are collecting enough revenue from our tenants to cover our operating costs in the building, all of which you laid out there.
Okay, yeah. And my next question then is how does this compare to compatible Class A office space in Augusta? And was there an appraisal or market analysis performed as far as this rent goes?
That I'm not sure. I don't know if Gretchen, you have a little bit more information on that.
I can help with that.
Thank you.
So we did an appraisal of the building, which included an assessment of the commercial tenants as well when we did that appraisal to purchase it, which was brought forward to the board for consideration. When UMA took ownership of the building, we assumed those leases. And as they've come up for renew, such as Centiro, we're shifting them to the university paper. So they did get a market analysis when we purchased the building, and the 3% escalation is a fair market value. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Trustee McMahon, then Gordon.
As we're new owners of the building, is the new lease structured in such a way that we won't be liable for unrelated business income taxes?
We work with the office of the treasurer to confirm that, and Ashley Wells, et cetera. So Ryan, I'm not sure if you want to weigh in on that.
Just to confirm everything that you said, we work really tightly with the campuses on exactly that point and other lease implications across the system.
Thank you.
That's great. And Trustee Gordon.
Mine is a related question, but I assume this portion of the building would be taxable from a real estate point of view. And do you know what that real estate tax is versus the revenue? And I assume it doesn't even make a dent in it, right?
The tenants are responsible for their tax obligation related to the real estate.
Good. Thank you.
And in this case, Centiro is currently a nonprofit organization, but it is clear in the lease agreement that they would be responsible for any taxes should they have to pay it.
Including real estate tax on that portion of the building?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Good questions. Other questions? Seeing none, I will read the text of the resolution. That the Board of Trustees, acting through the Finance, Facilities, and Technology Committee, authorizes the University of Maine system, acting through the University of Maine at Augusta, to enter into a lease agreement with Centiro for space located at 125 Community Drive, Augusta, Maine, consisting of an initial 1-year term with 5 additional 1-year renewal options for a total potential term of 6 years. Are there any additional questions or discussion? May I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Beth, would you please take the roll?
Trustee Kane,
Yes.
Trustee Cates,
Yes. Yes.
Trustee Flood,
Yes.
Trustee Michaud,
Yes.
Trustee McMahon,
Yeah.
Trustee Alexander, Yes. Trustee Riley?
Yes.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you all. We have one more University of Maine at Augusta item, which is the Belfast Hall renovations. So again, I'll turn it back to you, President Cushman.
Thank you. Our final item addresses critical building envelope needs at Belfast Hall on our Bangor campus. It serves as a hub for student services, library, academic support. Ensuring this facility remains safe and secure directly supports our strategic commitment to optimizing primary student spaces. Corey will walk us through the proposed $840,000 window replacement project. Corey?
Thank you. We're seeking authorization to spend up to $840,000 to replace all the window assemblies in Belfast Hall. So this is another situation similar to Jewett Hall, where we approached this initially with a phased approach, and as things were uncovered, we decided that we needed to move forward with a more cohesive and comprehensive strategy. The building is currently experiencing active water infiltration caused by deteriorated flashing and sealants. So while we hope to do this as funding allowed, a test window replacement confirmed that replacing all the window assemblies and associated flashing was necessary to prevent continued water infiltration and to secure the building's long-term structural integrity. So the scope of work includes replacing 86 window openings across all 3 floors with modern vinyl window replacements, new flashing, proper sealants, and restored interior drywall returns and sills. The project was included in our 5-year capital plan, and we'll fund it using E&G capital funds from FY26 and FY27, as well as the FY23 through FY32 directed spending bond. It results in no changes to our net square footage, our ongoing operating costs, and we anticipate substantial completion by June of 2027.
Thank you. We see at least one question. Trustee Cates. Sure.
Thank you. Could you just remind us what this building is used for?
Yes, so right now, Belfast Hall has primary student services, and it has our library on the Bangor campus, as well as the Veterans Center. It has student counseling and advising services in it, and it also has our classroom AV support in it as well.
Thanks.
Thank you. Let's go back to Trustee Michaud.
Yep. Thank you. Was there a, I might have missed it, was it a building envelope study completed, an engineering report? And because I was kind of curious, is there any hidden infiltration issues that might affect what's happening, such as framing or some of the other stuff?
Corey, happy to help with that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Gretchen. Go ahead.
So yes, we did involve capital planning and project management. And as Corey was talking about, we started with a test window to see what the general condition was. And after that test window was pulled out, further evaluation was warranted because of that current condition. So that's why Corey is bringing this forward today for additional consideration, because that evaluation resulted in additional need.
Okay. And was there any determining, I think you're using what, vinyl instead of aluminum, for the windows? Is there any reasons that energy efficiency or any specific reasons for that, or is it just cheaper?
I am happy to follow up on that question and get back to you, Trustee Michaud. I'm not sure. Corey, do you have any additional context?
I'm not sure, but I can certainly follow up with the project manager to get the specifics on that.
Okay, thank you.
That's great. Any other questions? And Mike, are you comfortable moving ahead pending that with this resolution
Yes.
today? Great. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, if not, I will read the text of the resolution. That the Board of Trustees, acting through the Finance, Facilities, and Technology Committee, authorizes the University of Maine system acting through the University of Maine at Augusta to spend up to $840,000 to replace all window assemblies in Belfast Hall. Any additional questions or discussion? May I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Beth, would you please take the roll?
Trustee Cates,
Yes.
trustee Kane,
Yes.
trustee Flood,
Yes.
trustee Michaud,
Yes.
trustee McMahon,
Yes.
trustee Alexander,
Yes.
trustee Riley, trustee Johnson.
Yes.
Trish,
Motion
we couldn't
carries.
hear you, so just FYI, I don't know if you,
Hmm.
are you a yes?
Can you hear me?
Oh, now we can, yeah.
Yeah, I was a yes, sorry.
Okay, great. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you all very much. We are done with our voting items right now. We're going to move on to the strategic plan tracking update, also known as the FFT overachieving update with the strategic plan, which it usually is because of all their excellent work on all of the items in the strategic plan. Gretchen, I'm going to turn this over to you now for the update.
Thank you. So a lot of what you heard already today ties directly to the strategic plan. So we had the Gordian update, and you can tell by the items that were brought forward to you today that we're focusing a lot on renovation, efficiencies, etc. So very brief update from me today. A lot of what we already discussed is part of that master plan or strategic plan update. Ryan, is there anything that you'd like to add?
No, most of mine are all in the budget space, and we knocked those off at our April 29 meeting, which I'm extremely grateful for.
Thank you both. Are there any questions from anyone about any of that? Excellent. The next thing we're going to do is go into executive session, and we will not be coming back into the public space because we don't have any other items for the agenda today. So before we go into executive session, I just want to check to make sure there isn't anything else anybody needs while we are still in the public portion of this meeting. Thank you. So we'll move into executive session. And for those of you who will not be joining us for that, thank you for being with us this morning. And I will just say that in advance of our next meeting, as I said at the top, Ryan and I will be revisiting the committee work plan, looking for opportunities to update that, and also looking to reach out to, once we have new committee members, thinking about what type of committee education we want to do as we anticipate the next cycle of the budget and other things on the horizon with finance, with facilities, and with technology. So thank you in advance for your engagement as we do that work in the coming weeks and months. With that, may I have a motion for the Finance, Facilities, and Technology Committee of the Board of Trustees to go into executive session under the provisions of 1 MRSA Section 4056C to discuss the condition, acquisition, or disposition of real property or economic development if premature disclosure of the information would prejudice the competitive or bargaining position of the UMS.
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
Thank you. Beth, would you please take the roll?
Yes, trustee Kane,
Yes.
trustee Cates,
Yes.
trustee Flood,
Yes.
trustee Michaud,
Yes.
trustee McMahon,
Yes.
trustee Alexander,
Yes.
trustee Riley,
Yes.
trustee Johnson.
Yes.
The motion carries. I'll move you into executive session.
Thank you, Beth.